title, man. Kanye West then showed up at the Diddy trial.
In a landmark move toward accountability and justice, the state of Illinois is now offering compensation.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So guns, king nights has been happening inside and outside of the Sean Combs federal courthouse as he's facing charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Been quite the day. Want to bring on Law and Crime's in-court reporter, Elizabeth Milner, to answer all of your questions right now. And there are a lot. Elizabeth, it's good to see you. As you can imagine, a lot of questions about Kanye West. He showed up to that courtroom today. We know he is a friend of Sean Diddy Combs. He was even asked reportedly outside of court, is he there to support him? Yes. So let me begin with the first question we have from Danny. There might be a misconception here. So Elizabeth, set the record straight. Was Kanye in the courtroom or was he in the overflow room?
So it was kind of an interesting morning. A lot of rumblings just about whether or not Kanye West was here, whether he was actually here, because there was rumors yesterday that he was here too. But yes, I can confirm that he was here at the courthouse today. Now, as far as being inside the main courtroom, he was not inside the main courtroom. I did not see him in there. But at first I was thinking, okay, maybe he might come into the main courtroom because they cleared the floor. They, being the marshals, cleared the floor. So I thought maybe it was to bring him into the room, but that didn't happen. But I did hear that he was sent to the overflow room, and maybe that wasn't where he wanted to be today. And so what ended up happening was I think he was there for maybe 15, 20 minutes and then ended up leaving. So no, he was not in the main courtroom, but I did hear he was in the overflow room for just a little bit.
Yeah, so we got this question from Olivia E., any jury or court reaction to Kanye being there. So I'm glad you set the record straight because it wasn't entirely clear what was going on. Oh, we had this happen today, too. Shopgirl asks, it was reported that Diddy was shaking his head again in court, during cross-examination. Did the judge admonish him once again, and did you observe any of that?
Well, I did, yes. I did observe him kind of nodding along with Mark Agnifilo, even towards the end of Mark Agnifilo's cross to the HSI investigator, or HSI agent, special agent, I should say, that I saw Diddy kind of give him an under-the-table thumbs up that I was able to see from my angle and my point of view. But afterwards, Maureen Comey kind of stands up. This is after the jury is dismissed for a break, and she said that her colleagues in the back of the courtroom, who have a better view of Diddy because the prosecution sits in front of him, so they don't get a view of him, obviously because they're in front of him, but that the colleague had told Maureen Comey that Diddy was kind of nodding along with the cross-examination, and the judge was kind of like,
just support him. Come on, man. This nigga, this motherfucking demon came to the Diddy trial just to support him. Just to support this nigga. Hey, just a fucking light. This nigga, come on, man. Just a fucking light. You came to the motherfucking trial just to motherfucking support him, bro. All the allegation that's on him, and you came. Well, they saying at this point he not guilty. But still though. See, I don't condone jail nobody. But nigga, from my point of view, bro, you like came to this motherfucking trial just to support him. And he supposed to been at the trial yesterday. I ain't seen him at the trial yesterday, but he came to the trial today to support.
He didn't admonish him necessarily. He was like, it's normal reaction for humans to kind of have this reaction, and I can't police every single reaction that the defendant is necessarily having. So it wasn't a stern talking to like it was the first time, but he said that if anything does happen again, he'll do the appropriate measures. But as far as Brian Steele kind of defending the defendant there, Brian Steele was kind of like, he's been nothing but professional. I'm sitting here right beside him every single day, and he's not doing what he was doing before as far as turning to the jury, nodding at them. He tries to make sure he's abiding by the judge's rules, not even looking at the jury when they enter and exit the courtroom today. And so it wasn't a tough talking to this time around, but I'm sure if something else were to happen and the judge notices something, that it might be a different type of talking to.
And if you just want to add to that, this is from Mary Baracco. How was Diddy today? How does he appear? How does his demeanor like?
Yeah, well, Diddy today, he was wearing his brown sweater, white undershirt, and khaki pants. As far as his demeanor goes today, I think maybe he was also possibly anticipating that Kanye West would be in the main courtroom, kind of show that level of support between friends. But he seemed kind of as usual, just, taking notes over at the defense table, speaking with his attorneys, nothing out of the normal as far as what we saw today in court. Definitely still participating in his own defense.
Why they just won't show like everybody like they be doing everybody else? Show like the courtroom, like blog in the courtroom or whatever they gonna do. Why they don't do that just like they do everybody else? So everybody can see everybody that's in the courtroom type shit. Why they don't just do that?
Taking all the testimony in and then jotting appropriate notes down at the appropriate times too.
You got to explain to me what's going on with these audio tapes. I'm not sure I quite follow them, Elizabeth. We have these tapes of what appear to be Christina Korum speaking with Jonathan Perez. What do these tapes sound like? And by the way, isn't this the first time that we've actually heard the voice of Christina Korum? What is going on in these tapes?
Yeah, I think to me that was kind of the most surprising thing, not only because she had recorded this conversation, but also because I'm like, wow, we've only seen her in photographs. Now we're hearing her actual voice. But Jesse, I do want to take a step back as far as why we were hearing that particular audio recording. And it had to do with Jane, because apparently staffers over at Diddy's home saw that there was this sexually explicit video on an iPad that normally the staff uses. And so there was kind of conversations had amongst the staff about how this was found, what do we do, that type of thing. So when Jonathan Perez was on the stand today, he was explaining that that he didn't know that this conversation was recorded, but before even this recording happened, that he had spoken to Diddy about it personally. And now when Jonathan Perez is on the witness stand, he refers to Diddy as Mr. Combs or Mr. C. So he said that he spoke to Mr. C about this recording and then spoke to Christina Korum about this particular video recording. I should kind of specify. No, there's the audio recording of Christina Korum, but as far as the Jane recording of her with another man, Jonathan Perez said he spoke to both Mr. Combs and Christina Korum about it. So then the conversation is brought back up again weeks after this initial conversation was had. And so we did hear this audio recording from KK and Jonathan Perez. It was dated January 30th of 2023. And I tried to write down as much as I could because finally and thankfully we're able to see the exhibits. So we finally were able to see the transcript. So I was trying to write down as much as I could. But Christina Korum is kind of like, I don't know how to bring this up. Bring that Bosu ball over here and sit on it so that you aren't standing. It was brought to my attention last night. And tell me step by step what happened. An outside person brought it up. Did you talk to anybody about this particular recording of Jane? Now, she didn't say, Jane or anything like that, but did you talk to anybody? So then Jonathan was like, well, I didn't talk to anybody. Christina Korum is like, well, were you in the house? And then Christina Korum said, where were you in the house? Jonathan said, Brandon was there. He was talking about something on the iPad. Christina Korum is like, okay, well, who was all in the house? We can check the cameras in the house. Jonathan is saying, well, I was just trying to saving him as far as Diddy specifically, so that way he could delete it. And then Jonathan said he didn't talk to anybody else about it. He said that Brendan wanted to tell Rob about this, said the advice was to initially just delete this video. But then Jonathan said he didn't want to delete this video in case something were to happen and it be brought back up, that type of thing. And so Diddy initially wanted to launch an investigation. Now, we didn't hear Diddy's voice on this audio recording, nor do we think that he was kind of even around when this recording took place. So really, we were just hearing the voices of Christina Korum and Jonathan Perez in this particular tape. But Christina conveyed to Jonathan that Diddy wanted to launch this investigation and how it got onto the staff iPad. And so Jonathan believed that this video was recorded on the iPad, but then Christina asked if other people like Brandon might have told other people about this. Jonathan said that Brandon was actually freaking out about this particular explicit video. And Christina Quorum was like, well, was anybody else there? Think, you know, the housekeepers, the chef. And Jonathan said that Chef K might have been around in the theater location when the staffers were kind of talking about this particular explicit video, but that Jonathan didn't relay to Christina Quorum that that Chef K was in the theater. He said he didn't want to make it a big thing. And so there were no follow-up conversations after these particular recordings were recorded, but the conversation was then brought to another person, another staffer, that being Kayne, who is Diddy's driver, as well as kind of, I think he was the head of security, that he brought it up a couple weeks later after Christina Quorum brought it up. And then Jonathan said that he had told Fahim pretty much the exact same story that he told in court, also that was reported on by Christina Quorum too.
Yeah, it's fascinating to hear this, and also wondering if she's not going to be called as a witness. Right now, there's no indication that she's going to be, which was a surprise to a lot of us following the case. We have a question here from Blessing Eek. Why was Diddy's son allowed to get to attend court yesterday wearing a Free Combs t-shirt? I thought that was against the court rules. Is that true from what you know?
Yeah, and I saw this shirt myself, and we were all thinking, because I was sitting by another reporter, we were like, how is he allowed to be wearing this inside the courtroom when the jury is present? Now, I don't know if the jurors were able to see what the words were that were actually transcribed on this particular shirt, because it was like a black shirt with red letters that say Free Sean Combs, and then what Christian had over top of it was kind of this mesh top, and so I don't know if the jury was able to see those words, but what I did see was Marshall kind of go up to Christian Combs, look at his shirt, and I thought, okay, well, maybe she's going to tell him, take the shirt off, or you're going to have to change your shirt, change it inside out, similar to how Charlucci was when he was wearing his free puff shirts or free puff sweaters and hats, but that didn't happen, and so he was able to continue wearing this shirt, something that I thought was pretty surprising given just the amount of attention that is on this trial, but also because of what had happened weeks earlier when they had told another person who was wearing a free puff shirt to turn their sweatshirt inside out.
I want to go back to yesterday. We were talking earlier about how Jane apparently hugged both the defense attorney and prosecutor in this case before she left the courtroom. We got a question from Danny. Did Jane stare down Diddy? When she got off the stand, when she was going out there and giving hugs?
I didn't see that from my point of view, and I think even there was like a split second because everything kind of happened so fast where I like look down, then I look up, and all of a sudden I'm seeing Jane hugging Tinny Garagos, and Tinny's kind of just like sitting there a little still in that matter, but I didn't see her stare down Diddy necessarily. From what I saw for most of her testimony, she avoided eye contact with him at all times. That's why it was really surprising to see her hug his defense attorney as she was getting off the witness stand.
By the way, Elizabeth, there was some controversy at the beginning of the day regarding a juror. There was talk about whether or not this juror would even remain on the jury. What did we learn a little bit more about what the confusion was with the juror, what the issue was with the juror? We had a lot of questions, I think, during this week in our chat about it. So what happened with this juror?
Yeah, well, we learned a lot more as far as why this particular juror was kind of being questioned and why the government might possibly want this particular juror off of this case. But the judge was like, well, why don't we bring this juror out? We asked him some questions so that way we can possibly get to the bottom of everything. And so we can ask about possible deceit. And then the defense was like, well, I don't think we're at this point that we need to ask any more questions, because apparently they had already been asking this particular juror questions twice already inside the robing room or the judge's chambers. And so the defense was like, you know, this is harmful. This he didn't have deceitful responses on the questionnaire that he had submitted in order to even be on this particular jury. And the defense was like, I'm hesitant to raise the issue again because I think that we think that the juror might have believed that something was wrong, and we don't want to kind of single out this particular juror. And so they said that they, being the defense, says we're concerned about his residency and we figured it out. And so this is kind of a measure of good faith. And the government is saying, well, this issue is an issue. And they said that multiple things can't all be true at one time, and there's inconsistencies with this juror's statement. And then the judge is kind of like, okay, well, maybe there's just an innocent explanation to all of this.
So, yeah, man.